Good morning. It's great to see everybody. Guys, as you know, on Friday, we have a special guest every Friday. And we invited guests to come because we're always in pursuit of who the best version of us is on the other side of this life adventure that we're in. And in order to do that, sometimes we've got to go and learn from others. So today we have the pleasure of having Michael Putnam join us, all the way from, it looks like you're in the Rocky Mountains, Michael. Is that, I mean, oh, there you go.
Recognize that?
It
Yes,
looks
that's
like
Half Dome in Yosemite.
amazing, amazing, awesome.
I'm
That's a
sitting on it right
backdrop.
now. It's great.
That's a backdrop, or that's really
Yeah,
what's
it's
on.
actual real one. It's a real one on the wall. We still can touch these things.
It's
Yeah,
amazing,
it's real.
amazing. And where are you actually physically?
Folsom, California, which is 20 miles east of Sacramento, so Northern California.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time in the middle of the night, because out there it's still the middle of the night. Thanks for taking some time to join us in the middle of the night in California.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is late. I've been going for like 4 hours.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
I'm
Since
kidding.
1
I'm
a.m.
kidding.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael, we started this call on our team. This is the Miale team, right? We started this call probably 6 years ago. It was pre-COVID. It was probably 2018 or 2019, where I had the insight that I was, as the leader of the team, gifted and given this great gift, and had the opportunity to get into rooms with incredible leaders and really big thinkers. And anywhere I went, it was always like, wow, you're Matt, you run the team, you should come here. And I had these mastermind groups, and everything was amazing, and I was learning so much. But I was really failing miserably at the transfer of skills and habits, right? And the transfer of knowledge, because as you've probably experienced in your career, you go somewhere, you spend 3 days, you do this deep dive on deeply personal information about learning how to become a better you, and you're surrounded by high-minded people. And then I'd come back to the team and I would just spew out 15 minutes of notes and expect everybody to be like, didn't you guys get all the same effect as what I did over 3 days? And I realized that that was not the way to do it. And so one of the key principles we have on our team, one of the things that we follow, is don't be the bottleneck. And we know that if you recognize that you're the bottleneck, it's your job to get out of the way. So I
Love it.
decided that I was going to get out of the way. And rather than try to be the leader that everybody wanted, I would step aside and bring the leaders to the team. So we're fortunate because Shelly Seidman said, you've got to get Michael Putnam here. Now, Shelly, I do have to ask, do you guys know each other? What's your relationship? Or Shelly, is Michael somebody who's just had a huge influence on you?
Yeah.
How's that relationship?
Yeah, I'll go back. And actually, this will get to some of my origin story, I think, a little bit if we want to get into that. I met her because a team leader in Northern California introduced me to the group that she was running at the time, which is a KW community called KW Clarity. And KW Clarity's mission is to help agents and their families that are navigating addiction and who want to become sober.
Yeah.
So I like to share everything. So I was a very heavy drinker, heavy alcoholic until about 11 years ago when my sons were born. And I was looking for some outlet to actually support others through that journey. I've shared it since 100 days in. It took 100 days for me to actually put it out there to the world that I was getting sober. However, then ever since then, once I built that accountability loop, I started looking for ways to contribute back to individuals or groups. And when Clarity was introduced to me, Shelly was the director of the board. I said, how do I become a part of this? Went through the process and I became a board of director member as well and helped grow that for a couple of years. So that's how I know Shelly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. That's something you're gonna have to share more with us about, Shelly, at some point. We're gonna put you on the
Happy
hot.
to.
Not today, not today, but
You can
so
ask me
Michael,
anything you want. I'm an open book 100%.
yeah, take us back to the beginning. Like, how do you, you've got an insanely impressive resume. So, I don't, you've got monster organization, huge team, selling lots and lots of houses. You're in expansion, if I understand
I
correctly, right?
was. I was. And I
Okay.
still live in a different way, though, yes.
Okay, so what we really love to dig into is, it's not really the highlight reel. It's more of like, tell us the story. Like, how first do you get into the business, and then once you find yourself in this business, how do you start recognizing where these growth paths are, and build something that most people, will never get an opportunity to build? How did it start for you? Where was young Michael Putnam before real estate?
Let me pause. I will go right to that in a second. However, just seeing the comments and the fact that you led with gratitude and things like that. By the way, that's something you don't get in a lot of places. So if I'm you, I'm leaning into that. And in fact, it resonated with me so much when you asked about who did gratitude. I raised my hand. I was a part of a team for a long time, and I'll go back to that story. And it was really weird because every day they got up and they stood in a circle and they shared what they were grateful for, what their commitments were for the day. And I was like, "Who are you weirdos?" And then I was like, "All right, this is cool. I'll try it." It's that whole you resist. There's a whole process for this. You resist
Yeah.
it, then you acquiesce, like you're all fine, I'll do it, and then you love it, and then you take credit for the idea.
Yeah.
That's the evolution of everything. And it
Yeah.
just was really weird for me. So after a few months of it though, I brought it home, and this was 12 years ago. And
Wow.
now every day, my wife and I share gratitude with our two sons if they're awake. It's 5:30 in the morning, they're not awake. So I'm leaving right after this call to go to 3 hours away, and so we had to get our gratitude out of the way early in a positive way. So just letting this group know that that's such a cool thing because how many people do we know in our lives or that we come across that just don't exhibit gratitude?
Yeah, most.
Most.
I would say most people. Like that's actually the sad part, which is like once you know you can't unknow, you can't, the language of you can't unenlighten an enlightened mind. Like once you've got knowledge, you can't unknow what you know. And the truth is that we know lots and lots of things, even to our own that will benefit our life. And many of us don't take the choice or make the choice daily to take action on it. And so what we know unequivocally is if you wake up every day in gratitude, you're going to have a better day. You will
Absolutely.
absolutely have a better day. Like it's this short breath work moment of, I'm grateful for the things that are around me and the people that I love and the opportunity to be in this business, and that alone will set you right. So,
I dig
yeah,
it.
we believe in all that. All the airy fairy, bring it. We're all in. We're all
It's
in. So,
powerful. It's
yeah.
powerful if you lean into it. You can just manufacture it or you can lean into it and it changes your chemical makeup. It absolutely does in that moment. So
Okay.
I just wanted to say I appreciate being able to be a part of that so early in the morning. So thank you. All right, so the story. I was a director for a chain of health clubs before I got into real estate. So graduated Cal Poly, which is on the Central Coast here in California. Traveled Europe for a little while, came back, got two jobs because I needed to make some money. Moved in with my at the time girlfriend, now wife, her brother, and I got two jobs. So I had two jobs before I left both those jobs, and I got two more jobs. And one of them was at Home Depot, and one of them was at a gym. I stayed at Home Depot for 2 days. I learned that you should water your lawn before the sun comes up so it doesn't burn. And I learned that you never tell a client or a customer where something is. You walk them to it and you hand them off to somebody else, or you get them to that product, even if it's not your department. And I share that because that's come with me for 24 years now.
Love it.
Never just hand someone off. Like an example would be, oh, go talk to this person. If
Right.
I can make the direct connection, I'm going to make the direct connection because that person feels valued. And I also know that if I just say, go talk to this person, 50% of the time they're not going to do it and they're going to hold me accountable for it. So
Yep.
just a little life tip right
Well,
there.
it's like a very simple sort of way to really understand how people experience the world, right? They interact with
Absolutely.
you, and this just happened to me yesterday. If you call somebody and you're on a customer service line, one way they do it is they say, "Oh, you've called the wrong department. Here's the number to call," and they hang
Ugh,
up. Another way to
ugh.
do it is stay on the line while I connect you with so and so, and then they come back and they say, "I've got so and so on the line. Who's this is the person you need to speak to? I'm going to drop off the call now." Way different experience.
Way
Ultimately,
different.
same transfer of information. So, love it. Love it.
So lots of thanks to Home Depot for teaching me that great life lesson. I appreciate it. And then I quit after 2 days. So I was a personal trainer at a gym instead, and I, just doing what I got to do to make some money, looking for what my next step in my life after having a business degree and getting ready for growing and whatnot. And so I started working there. Luckily, my girlfriend hired the guy that ran the gym or one of the gyms, so it was a very easy hire for me. I started doing that. I became the director of that business over in about 6 months. I went to the president of the company. I said, "Hey, I'm gonna be on your director level in 6 months. So where's the path?" And so he was just he didn't think it was going to happen. So I just got to work and went after it and became that. And we expanded that business from a $300,000 business to a $2.2 million business in 2 years.
And
And
this
then we
is
expanded to 16 locations.
the gym.
These are gyms, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And
What brand was
it's
that?
California Family Fitness who now merged with In Shape Fitness.
Okay, California Family Fitness. You said you got a business degree,
Hmm.
undergrad,
Yep.
and where did the fitness passion come in? Was it just something personal? because you said you became a trainer or you worked at a
Yeah.
gym. Like, was that something that you studied? Did you go to become a personal trainer? Or you just were like, hey, I'm a gym rat. I like it. This is an environment where I think I can win.
I All right, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit more. So I always have been into fitness, love the outdoors, as you can probably tell. I've got a big goal around some things in the mountains right now. And I worked at Abercrombie for a little while. My buddy ran some Abercrombie's, and I was that dumb guy that stood in front of the stores without a shirt on. So I was always into fit. Yeah, see, I see people laughing. I was out front like, hey, look at my body.
All
Come
right,
buy
listen,
some
dude, I'm gonna
clothes.
I'm gonna get real vulnerable here and say like, I sort of wish I could have been that guy, but I was never going to get hired for that job. So let's just, like I can be, yeah, it's corny, but at the end of the day, there's probably the hate comes from jealousy probably. So glad you could pull it
Okay,
off.
I'm a little proud of it. It was actually kind of
Yeah, you
cool.
should be proud of it. Yeah.
So I've always been into fitness. That was just the story behind that. I've always been into fitness, and no, I had no desire to go into the fitness industry whatsoever. I need a job. I've
Yeah.
got a quote for myself that I'll do what I got to do until I can do what I want to do.
Hmm.
And I mean, I did when I went into real estate. Just to fast forward for a second, I'll go back. When I finally made the leap from that business after 2 years of being a part-time agent in it, just selling to coworkers and whatnot, not very much. I sat down with my wife and I said, I got to get out of here. So I'll just fast forward to that part. I ended up being able to work with some amazing people. Our company, we sold half of it to a venture capitalist group out of Boston. So all of a sudden, I'm in boardrooms with really elevated people. At that point, I was only 24, I think, at the time, and so it was such a great experience. However, the
Give
culture
me a
shifted.
give me a timestamp on this, Michael. This
Yeah,
is
2004 was when I started there. I left there in 2011.
okay. So you're in the fitness industry from 2004 to 2011.
Mhm.
Arguably, again, we had like major economic crisis during that time. The fact that you were able to get through that time and build the business from, you said, what, 300,000 to 2.2 million,
And that was,
and
yeah,
then
one
go,
department. Yeah.
yeah, and then go get VC funding, or private equity funding in that. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It was a challenge, like everything else. We had to navigate it too. When you see all of a sudden your memberships drop from 300 a month down to 75, it can be devastating, just like we saw in the market itself in the real estate. And yet you do what you got to do in your business. Every one of us is a business operator, and you just do what you got to do. The activities still remain the same. You just might have to do more of them, and you got to go watch your expenses. It's I see it so much in my personal life with people I coach or mentor or friends or family or whomever, is that they start making more money and they start spending more money, and then when they stop making as much money, they keep spending the same money, and all of a sudden they're in a crushing debt. And
Sounds
we get so used to the lifestyle, or get so used to the momentum that we've got, that we think it's going to go on forever, and sometimes we don't adjust fast enough. So
yeah.
it was a difficult time. I enjoyed it because I was young and hungry and stupid and just wanting to learn, and getting to learn from these people that have been in business for 30 or 40 years was fantastic. And I always knew I was going to get out of the industry, and it really became apparent for me in what I call the dark days. I don't blame the company at all. I just, the shift in leadership, and it changed from more of a family-based thing to more of a numbers thing. And of course, with VC in there, it just wasn't the same anymore. And then there was some fear-based leadership in there. So I just had a miserable last 2 years there. And that's what started to cause, that's what I allowed to start causing my slip on my personal side. So
Yeah.
I went to my wife and I just said, I can't do this anymore. And she was like, you got to go. I can tell. You got to go quit. And I had gotten my license about a year and a half prior. And I said, and this goes back to the quote of, I'll do what I got to do until I can do what I want to do. And I said, listen, give me 6 months on this. We've got enough money. Uh, if I'm not making enough money to sustain in 6 months, I will go work at Chevron. I'll go work at McDonald's. I do not care. I will take care of this family. That is my one promise and commitment to you. And luckily, even though I was a slouch, I was like so many agents that get into the business after a 9 to 5, they treat it like a hobby and not like a job or business. And so I
Say
get up when
that,
I,
say that louder for me, Michael. Thank you. Yeah, treat it like
so
a yeah.
we treat it like a hobby sometimes. And there's a shift that comes a little bit later in my career, because I struggled for a couple more years after that. And that's the alcohol that's going to come through. I, I got up when I wanted to get up. I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, and didn't have results. And there's a correlation there. So luckily though, I backed into a deal and I made some money in month 6, and I bought myself some more time. And that's when I started seeking people that could help, because I was on this downhill slide. And again, I'm an open book. I mean, at one point I was getting up in the morning because my wife went to work at 6:45, and I was just, sorry to share so much, I was choking down
No.
bile waiting for her to leave so I could go and puke in the sink. It was that
You know,
bad.
I want to. I actually think like I think we sometimes, when we're trying to learn about personal development and leadership, we focus on the podium instead of the process. So I want to pause on this moment
Sure.
for a second, because I actually believe the most important lessons come from that moment of choking down bile. And I hope it's not, too vulnerable or too
Not at
uncomfortable.
all.
But there are these moments in life where you realize it's up to you. And some people take action to actually move the needle and find inside of them the identity of the person who they need to become. Because it's really what happened wasn't that, oh, you just got up and you lead generated one day. What actually happened was you discovered the person you needed to be in order to become successful. You weren't that person yet, but you connected to it. You said, I know the person that I need to be is in here, and this is the way I need to go. Talk to me about that process. Like, because it doesn't happen by accident. there's it's not mere. I think some people are waiting for lightning strike and a miracle to happen, and that somewhere, God's going to come down, walk into your bedroom on that morning and say, today you don't have to puke because today I'm going to give you clarity. And that's not the case. There's this, like, it's like slow process. So your wife's going to work 6:45 in the morning, you're waking up, you're feeling a little listless, a little lost, you've just had a rise in success in one business, you're moving into this other thing, and like time's running out.
Hmm.
What happened? What happened?
It
Something changed.
sustained like yeah, it's sustained like that for a while, and luckily, and this is where I want this group to really lean in, is I was surrounded by people that support me and care about me both personally and professionally. And it actually, the catalyst was a conversation with my partner in business. And so my kids were born 3 months early. They came out of nowhere, and ultimately I spent 3 months in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. And so my wife was in the hospital for a few days because it was an emergency C-section. They had to go to a different hospital, and I continued doing this. So I'd wake up, do my thing, and I'd go see them, and I'd drink on the way there. I'd drink on the way to the office. So it sustained for a while. And luckily, after 3 weeks after my kids being born, my partner and mentor came down from Portland to Sacramento to spend a day in my office. And I showed up late because I was visiting my kids. I did that every morning. However, then I stopped and I got some drinks and wanted to finish those before I got to the office. That was the routine I was in. And luckily he was there that day. I had been having the conversation with myself for years, like, I know I shouldn't, I know I should stop, I know I should slow down. I've made deals with myself, I made bets against things, whatever it was. And I didn't have the strength at that time, or I didn't have the motivation, or something was missing for me to stop and become who I want to become. And it's so funny that you say that, because in that 2 hour meeting, he did his crafty way of getting to the conversation. However, in that meeting, he asked me a question that will live with me forever, which was actually a catalyst to me start thinking, not necessarily in the decision point. The decision point came later. And his question to me was similar to what you said, Matt, was, when do you become the man, when will you become the man that you promised your family you would be? And that question hit me right between the eyes, hit me right in the heart. And of course, your reactive state, I was like, right now. And he goes, well, then prove it. And in my mind, I wasn't convinced. In fact, so I left that meeting to go home to talk to my wife about this, and I started going through my normal routine, and I started driving towards my local liquor store. And something, and I don't know what this was, it was a decision, there was some other thing that happened. I was driving there, and about 2 blocks from it, I just felt myself need to turn the car. And that was the moment. That was the moment a decision was actually made, because until that point, I was thinking about it, I was contemplating, I was hopeful around it, and yet that was when the decision was made. I went home, talked to my wife for 3 hours, and haven't touched a drop of alcohol since. That was October 28th, 2014.
Did your wife know about did she know, or was this in secrecy? Was she aware of the level of drinking that you were?
She was aware, not to the level. When she'd find vodka bottles underneath my car seat, she knew. She knew. And
You're like, that's
it,
not mine. I don't know who's that. Yeah.
the shit you come up with to try to make excuses for yourself is unreal. Like, oh my God, a bird must have flown in and dropped those underneath my chair. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
happened there.
Yeah.
Uh, she knew, and this is something I've said with a little bit of shame and guilt at the same time. It's just the truth. She loves me so much. I knew I could bullshit her long enough to keep her around.
Yeah. Well, I
And that's
think that
so
I
terrible.
think that a lot of us, it's not always alcoholism, it's not always drinking, it's not always drugs, it's not always something so catastrophic. Sometimes it's just bad behaviors that we know
Mhm.
we have.
Yeah.
and we're surrounded by people who love us. And those people who love us want to keep us safe and want to keep us feeling loved. And so the confrontation that they're not usually the ones where the source is going to come from. Like you want them because if your wife had put her foot down earlier, maybe you'd have changed sooner, but there's no way that that was her role,
Yeah.
like, and she could never play that role. And so we often are inside of these relationships where people care about. This is one of the trickiest parts, by the way, in my own vulnerable moment. It's one of the hardest parts about running a team is that we genuinely fall in love with everybody that's on the team, love every one of you guys. And sometimes you need to hear things that I know are going to be offensive or hurt your feelings or make you feel mad. And maybe you'll even just say, screw that Matt guy, I'm going to quit, which is the last thing that somebody wants. But somebody's got to call you out on your shit. Somebody's got to say it. And to your point, you had a masterful mentor. And this is in the real estate business, right? The person
Yep.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
So fortunately, you had somebody that was able to ask you the question in a way that was going to resonate with you. So he obviously saw your capability, your talent, your capacity, and he saw the person in you that you didn't know necessarily that you were capable of being yet, right?
And
So
just to build on that point, it's I look back on it again with a little bit of shame, and yet at the end of the conversation with him before I actually drove home, I asked him, "What does this mean for you and me?" We're partners, been partners for about a year at that point. He said, "Oh, not only will we not be in business together if you continue down this path, I won't be in your life." And that was another part of it because I knew he meant it. I
yeah,
knew when my wife got mad at me or my dad tried to talk to me or a friend tried to talk to me, I was like, "Yeah, you don't mean it. You're gonna stay. You're my dad. You're my wife. I know it." And that's again terrible thing to say. It was just the truth. And yet when I saw it in his eyes and he meant it, I was like, I don't want to lose that. And so
wow.
it took that, and I'm okay. I'm okay admitting that it took a business relationship to get me to think more about my personal side. And
I
it's
mean,
okay. Sometimes you need that.
what a powerful leadership lesson in that.
Yeah.
Candidly, hearing somebody willing to take a stand that strong about who they're going to surround themselves with, right? So that's a person who put your integrity and his integrity is, I'm assuming it was a guy, and his
Mhm.
integrity above all else to say, I just don't surround myself with people that don't take their life seriously in this regard.
And that is a powerful leadership lesson. A coach of mine talked to me about this not that long ago and said, "Look, as a coach, as a leader, you're probably going to be the least liked person at times. However, as long as you're doing the right thing for the person, that's okay." It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's tough to reconcile at times. However, yeah,
It
you have
is,
to say
especially
something or do
because
something.
most people don't step into leadership because they don't want to because they most people step into leadership because they are a servant heart. So that's again most of the people that wind up successful at it. And so when you are a servant heart and you genuinely love people and want people to succeed, it's really hard to take dislike or it's really hard to absorb when people feel you're wrong or don't
Yeah,
like you. You want to be liked. It's fundamental. So okay, I love this origin story. I think it's phenomenal. Really thank you so much for sharing.
sure.
So now you have this turning point.
Yeah.
And let's get into there's this guy that's going through the motions, right? I'm assuming that prior to you quitting drinking wasn't epic levels of success in real estate.
Now I was doing fine.
Fine, getting by. Okay. So then there's this turning point. There's this I'm not going to liquor store today. I turn the wheel and a cascading event of decisions start happening. You start doing different things differently, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That no longer are you drinking, so clarity starts to show up. There's different decisions that show up. So talk to us about how that starts because I'm a big fan of this. I was talking to one of our agents yesterday, Aaron Varuso, about the lead domino theory and that
Hmm.
like the lead domino in any habit chain is the most important one to identify. And it's usually like I know I need to work out, but the lead domino for me to go work out every day is not going to the gym. Like it's usually like making sure I drink a glass of water first thing in the morning,
Yeah.
which is sort of unrelated, but it sets the chain of events that like if I drink the glass of water, I know it's going to be a healthy day because I'm making healthy choices right from the beginning. And then like all these other things start to cascade after it. So talk to us about the changing evolution of Michael Putnam. Like how do you become this person who now's got, by the way, give me a timestamp on how old you are at this point.
34.
Awesome. Love it. All
34.
right. So this new version starts to emerge.
Yeah, and it's a couple of things. So I've always believed in accountability. I like, self-commitment and whatnot. So on the personal side, I just started with some local accountability, and that means the people closest to me. I went to my wife first, obviously, then I went to my parents who live about 20 minutes away, and just kind of opened up to the people that I knew were going to support me the most. And then I started spreading that out, and that's where I got to the 100 days. And the story within that is I went to my buddy's house and on a Saturday morning, he lived down the street from us, and it was pretty common for the second I got there, he'd offer me a beer, we'd drink a beer together, and when he did it, I said no, then I quit, and he for the month or whatever, and I go, no, I'm done. And he got really awkward about it, and there's a moral to this in a second.
Mm.
He got really awkward about it. I said, no, 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 listen, this is my choice, this is my life, you don't do anything differently for around me because that would be the worst thing you could do for me. All I'm asking is that you don't try to get me to drink because if you do that, I'll kick your ass. Other than
Yeah.
that, we're good. Let's have a great time. I'll drive you wherever you want to go. And so I just started going and building this accountability circles, went to my team leader, went to my team and let them know where I was, what I was going to change about my life. And it was just for me, it was the more accountability I build around this, the more knowledge I give people about the struggle that I've been going through that I'm correcting now, the less likely I am to let them down. I've let myself down for years. I'm not going to let those people down, especially once I voice it and commit to it. And then at 100 days, I put it out there to social media, and I got a lot of shocked responses. Like, how can you be shocked? If you see pictures of me from 10 years ago to today, I went from 175 pounds ripped to 263 pounds and puffy and red. Like everybody that's paying attention knows what's going on. So I went and I wanted more and more accountability on the personal side. On the business side, luckily I have always had the habit of showing up to the office, even drunk or whatever. I would be there at 8 o'clock. And so like that was a good habit to put in foundation. So all I needed was to follow that habit and continue to show up. And as I got more and more clear, and there's another pivotal moment to this, I was able to at least get into the environment, and it took about 3 weeks for me to kind of feel normal. So I was at least there. I wasn't doing much, however, I was there. So that habit was a good foundation for me. Ultimately, the biggest change was when I took my ego and I threw it out the door. And I went to my partner and I said, I'm tired of doing things my way. You've helped me with this. I'm grateful for that. I'm moving through that. I'm tired of just being okay in business, top 5% or 10%. That's good. It's not where I know I could be. And show me the path. I will check my ego at the door. I will follow the plan. I will do it for 12 months straight. And at that point, I'll make a decision on where I'm going to go with my life and career. And my business tripled that year.
Tripled.
Tripled. Went
What
to
was the
36
what
transactions.
I have so many things I want to comment on. So, but let me get to this in a second. First
Sure.
thing, the thing that you did that I think is the thing that most people, including almost everybody that's on this call, including myself, is you overcame this element that I believe is probably the thing that prevents most people from reaching the levels of success that they need, which is you overcame your fear of public failure. There was a very high probability, probably in your mind, that you might not, that you might drink again. Like even though you were telling it, I'm not, I'm done, I'm done. There was probably a part of you, this little itchy, scratchy thing in the back of your mind that was like, am I really going to be able to do this? And you went out and said to everybody, first your team leader, then your team, then you expanded these circles of influence and told people, this is the new me, this is how I'm going to operate. And that sets you up for public failure. That's what that does. Like that's a very, very scary, scary thing that most people won't do. And I think that what that does is it creates a cascading effect of action steps where we're all motivated by how we look. We want to look good and be right. Like we
Right.
don't want the world to see us as a failure, and so we the more like that's a big bold step that again I can acknowledge myself like I encounter places where I'm afraid of that public failure. That public failure feels really really scary. So number one, I saw you do that, and or I hear that you did that, and that created a levy system or a break wall where you were like, hey, if I screw this up, everyone's gonna know, right? And especially after having lived kind of in the shadows of like, I'm hiding all this stuff. You know what? No more hiding. This is who I am and this is how I'm gonna live. I love that. And then you said you had to check your ego. what was the battle like, the daily battle with your ego? Like at some, because in the beginning, the ego's real loud, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Still is. Still
Yeah.
is. I hadn't subscribed to the idea that someone else can show you the pathway and help you go faster than you can go by yourself. I hadn't subscribed to that yet.
Okay.
And it took time. So the ego piece, it really for me, it was when the pain became enough of about who I was or the lack of success I had had, when that pain became enough, the ego part became a lot easier at that point because no longer did that matter as much. What mattered, and I got really fixated on what mattered most in my life. What mattered most in my life was two things: taking care of the three people that are about 50 feet away from me right now, and proving that I can show up as the person I know I am. So I had a chip on my shoulder big time. You know, I still say this today, and it's been 12 years almost, that since that day, when I'm speaking to a group, when I'm coaching an agent, when I'm doing my business or whatever it is, I imagine that my kids are over in the corner and I don't know they're there. And so I ask myself the question, would they be proud of how I'm showing up right now? And if the answer to
Amen.
that question is no, then I got to change something in that moment. If the answer is yes, then I'm in the right path. And so it really became fixated on what kind of example am I setting for these kids? What kind of relationship am I providing for my wife? And I'm not this guy. I know who I am. I was the star quarterback and homecoming king, and I was great best in school, all that crap. And I know who I am. I know how I can show up, and I just let myself slip. And so I needed to get back to that. So that chip on my shoulder, that monkey on my shoulder, was talking to me constantly about, hey, you got something to prove. You got something to prove. You got something to prove. And that helped me say, okay, if I've got something to prove, and I know this guy has done it before, and we're in business together, and he can help me go that way, why don't I lean on his expertise and his track record and his support and just go do the damn work? If
Yeah.
I do the work, like I'm doing in not drinking, every day I'm doing the work to not drink. If I just do the work in my business and the results don't show up, then I've earned my way out. That's a great piece of advice I got from somebody. He was talking about his a relationship though. He said, you earn your way in and you earn your way out. And that's the mentality I took into this. I was thinking about leaving the team at that point, and I said, well, wait a sec. Luckily, I had a mentor, everybody that spoke truth to me. I met with him 3 times over the course of about 6 months. His name's Ethan. And I said, Ethan, I'm thinking about leaving the team. And every single time I would say that to him, he would ask me the same question: are you doing what you should be doing to get out what you think you deserve? And I go, no, and then shut the fuck up and go back to work. That was his
Amen.
exact quote to me every single time. And I'm like, ugh. Finally, the third time it resonated. And I said, okay, that's when I asked Cody, I said, show me the way, I'm going to follow it.
Yeah.
And so checking that ego is just saying, I can't do this on my own. I do need support. I do need help. I was always the guy that wanted to solve every problem. I was always the guy that thought he could do everything on his own, even though I'd been on teams before and I knew it's a team effort to get to where we wanted to go in life or work or sports or whatever. And yet I had this I left a job because I didn't like being under the thumb of somebody. So I said, nah, nobody can tell me what to do. I'm going to do things my way. My way sucked. My way
Right.
got me moderate success. His way helped me go into a much higher stratosphere than I'd ever been before. And so that ego part, as the results started showing up, got easier and easier to check too. Like, all right, if I can just check it long enough to go and do the work that someone's recommending to me that I do to have the results that he knows that I want to have, okay, great. Oh, some results. It took time. It's a hockey stick effect. Oh, results. Okay, so this actually does work. I can check my ego even further. Tell me more. Let me learn more. And that's something I've learned through this whole process is if I can just get a taste, if I can just get a taste and it's something that you've done or that you can help me with, then I'm going to want more of that and I'm going to go to the source. No longer do I try to create things on my own. I'm always in a committee of some sort, whether it's a one-on-one committee, a big committee, because more brains are better than one. It doesn't mean I agree with everybody. Like if all of us tried to come to an agreement on one topic right now, I guarantee there'd be a lot of conflicting ideals. And yet at the end of it, we commit and we move forward. And
Yeah.
that to me is what a real team is okay, we would high clash of ideals, low clash of egos, and we get to the best decision and we move forward. I was just taking that and applying it to my own personal life and saying, all right, who can give me the information I need so I can accelerate this growth because I don't want to sit still. I hate
Yeah,
stagnancy.
you've been around this type of community now for a while. I think this is the key, the distilled question that every leader in real estate or perhaps every business would love to get an answer to, which is what does it take for somebody to get to the point where they have confidence and faith in the plan that's
Oof.
put before them versus deciding that they need to make it up as they go,
Right.
because this is like I think that is the defining challenge of my literal everyday. Like I often joke that, I'm not actually in the real estate business, I'm in the behavior modification business because all I'm actually trying to get people to do is what I know is in their best interest in order to move their business forward, in order to get them to what they said that they want. And it's a constant struggle. It's the most bananas thing in the world where it's like, oh, you say you want this. Here's three things that you could do that would get you that. And people go, cool, I'm going to do one. You go, you got to do all three. Well, I'll do one and a half. They're always negotiating with their results because the ego part says, well, if I don't make it up, then do I really get to own the results? And the answer is, Michael, do you get to own the results?
Oh yeah.
Yes, they're still your results. You're still the one that that got all the money, that won all the awards, that got all the thing, right? So somebody helped you along the way by removing the part that said you needed to do it yourself. I think that's the distilled question that every leadership book should really be about is how do you help people overcome the part that says they need to do it on their own? Because that's what makes you unique, candidly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's your unique superpower was at some point you said, and it really is. You haven't mentioned Alcoholics Anonymous, so I don't know if you're in the group or not, but the Serenity Prayer is one of my favorites of all time because, and again, it's not an AA thing for me. It's a brilliant, brilliant way of looking at life. Like God grant me the serenity to know what I can control and what I can't, and give me the power to figure out which one's which. Like it's so clear on how to move forward. So somehow you figured that out, which is brilliant. So the mindset shift happens. The ego gets sat down or quieted. You fight the battle every day. What does your everyday look like? Because now we got to get to the tactical. So
Yeah.
there's this new version of you, but you didn't just miraculously show up with a cape and a superhero costume and start selling houses. You must have had to do some work. What kind of work did you do? Was there a magic formula? Was there a pill that you swallowed? Like, what did you do that created a 3x business? How did you show what kind of work were you doing?
So there was a mental shift for me. So I owned my own business. It was my own sales business, obviously. So I split my brain into two parts. And one was, okay, I'm the owner of this business. What's my job there? And my job there was to cast the vision, to set the goals, to align the resources. That's part of the team and other things. And then clean up the messes and keep going. The other side of the brain, I said, I now have to treat this like a job. I have to be my own employee inside this business. And luckily, a great question has floated around KW and other circles for a long time is that based on your performance today, would you hire yourself tomorrow? And I love that. I asked myself that question for so many months, if not years, because that just helped me refocus on, am I doing the job that I'm supposed to do? So the tactical of that is, luckily, again, good advice always comes when you need it. My partner said, I don't give a crap what you do in the afternoon. If you do the right things in the morning, your afternoon will take care of itself. And so I just lived by that mantra. So I got really regimented in following a schedule. I mean, I was just in front of 40 or 50 people in our Palo Alto office yesterday talking about this very topic that people kept asking for these tips and tricks. And I said, show me your schedule. Don't ask me for a better script. Don't ask me for a better source. Show me your schedule first. Show me your schedule. And they're very hesitant. In fact, I think I asked all of them at one point who could hold their camera or their phone up right now with their schedule and it would be extremely well laid out. And not a single person raised their hand. I said, then we've got a class to teach. So the calendar became my best friend and it still is to this day. It's now it's my defender. Someone asks me to do something, I say, I would love to, let me check the calendar. And then the calendar says, no, sorry. So I love my calendar. It's my exit clause from a lot of things. The calendar I built was based on advice I got from others, and it was based on that quote that I gave a minute ago, that what you do in the morning will take care of the afternoon. And so I just built it based on what someone told me to do. And that was, I got to the office at 7:45 in the morning and I role played for 15 minutes. Luckily, and I found a partner. He wasn't on my team. However, I found a guy, Jake DeRose is his name, runs a Ben Kinney team now. And we got together and we started role playing every morning at 7:45, and we had accountability around that too. I think accountability at every layer is really important. We had a jar, and in that jar you had to put $20 if you were late. You had to put $50 if you didn't show up that day. And it was in my office. We did that in my office every day. And so if I was running late, I would get a call or a message from Jake, and it would be him cussing me out, and then vice versa. I would do the same to him because we were buddies and we could do that with each other. And if at the end of every month we gave that money to an agent in our community that we did not like, it was our way of
Oh,
punishing
love it.
ourselves.
Love
It
it. So
was it was
like an
fun.
envelope full of cash to one of your top competitors.
And we had to write a nice note that said, "Hey, we really like what you're doing. This is we want to donate this money to your marketing fund."
Wow,
Oh, it
fantastic.
sucked.
That's yeah, that's terrible. That's a
Yeah.
terrible, terrible thing to do.
So
Yeah,
that
I
was
love it.
accountability around that.
Yeah,
Uh, and then it
that's
was
awesome.
lead gen. And this is all going to be super simple, standard stuff.
It
And I
always
think that's what
is.
we forget about sometimes, that the fundamentals are really still what work every single day, getting belly to belly with more people. So it was 7:45 to 8 o'clock lead, or role play. It was 8 a.m. We went right into lead generation together for 90 minutes. We took a break and debrief, and then we went to follow up for 60 minutes after that. And I just did that every single day. My afternoons were laid out for themselves. I had an appointment on my schedule at 1, 3, and 5 because I wanted to schedule 3 appointments per day. They just had a blank appointment until I put a name in it. And if I
Mhm.
didn't have an appointment, I went back through my list. I did 5 things, and I got this from Bold. This is Diana Kokoska speaking. There are 5 job duties of a real estate agent. That is lead gen, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and role play and script play, or role play and script
Yep.
practice.
Yep.
Skill set development, working with clients, getting clients. And so I just went through this process. Okay, I do my follow up or my lead gen, I do my follow up. I don't have an appointment, so I just go back through the list. I just went down. Oh, now I do have an appointment. Okay, oh, I don't have a 5 o'clock. I go back and down the list. And
Mhm.
so that kept me focused every single day, and accountability around that too. I hired a coach at that point, and it was, I'm going to report my numbers every single day. Every single day. I don't care if you want them or not. I'm going to text you every single day. Here's my numbers for the day. And luckily, I had a great coach, and he was, I want you to, because in 3 weeks, we're going to look at the numbers, and we're going to look at the numbers again in 3 months and 6 months. And it started to tell a story really quickly. So having accountability of showing up was number one for me. And I coached a guy named Pablo, loved the guy, and he was having a challenge just getting up and getting to work. And so I'm sharing this because I think it's such a simple story. And sometimes, like you said, Matt, we jump to the gym. The gym is the goal, yes. However, what's the step, or what are the habits I have to stack before I can actually make that happen consistently? And so for Pablo, it was simply, all right, you're having a problem getting to the office and doing the work. Okay, well, let's go all the way back. What's your sleep routine look like? What's your night before look like? Okay, so can we commit to one thing? What would that be if it was important for you? It'd be getting up by 6:30 in the morning. I said, awesome. How are we going to know that that's happened? He said, okay, well, I'll send you a text. Like, great, perfect. So we called it butt off mattress, feet on the floor. By 6:30 in the morning, all he had to do was have his butt off the mattress and his feet on the floor and text me. And I said, I don't care if you go back to bed as soon as your feet hit the floor and your butt gets off the mattress. The habit we're building right now is getting your feet on the floor and your butt off the mattress by 6:30. And we
Right.
lived there for a couple of weeks. He'd go
Right.
back to bed sometimes, get in bed with his wife.
Like, all right,
Totally
I did it,
understand.
and now I'm
Yeah, I
going
did
back to
it.
bed. Right.
Great, check it off. Now we have to stack it. Now, okay, what's the next habit? Like a drink of water or whatever it is. And over the course of about a month and a half, it took. Then all of a sudden, it was him sending me pictures of him in the parking lot by 8 a.m. It wasn't lead generating yet. So all of this is just sharing your habit stacking along the way. And that's what I had to do in my business too, was number one habit is I'm going to show up. So I put accountability around that. And then habit number two, I'm going to go and do the activities even though I suck at them. I wasn't very good at that point, not yet. I'm just
Mhm.
going to do them. I'm going to do so many of them that my skill set's going to ramp up quickly. And so I
And
made it a
and those
commitment.
activities are those 5 jobs of a real estate agent.
Correct. Yeah. So the lead generation at 8 a.m. and follow up around 10 o'clock. And
Yep.
it was put me on every tool you possibly can that's going to force me into action more often. So I ended up jumping on a quad line dialer and making 3,000 phone calls per month.
Yep.
And getting into that habit, knowing I was going to have to churn through a lot of dirt to find the nuggets, it taught me resilience. It taught me that every no leads to a yes. I even got to a point where I knew how much a no made for me. Every time someone would say no, I'd be like, check. I just put some money in the bank because I know a yes is coming, and I need 27 no's to get to a yes.
Yep.
So by going through just that, and again, I can't over emphasize the simplicity of just showing up and getting into action. Having accountability around that and having support to develop my skill set was important. However, it was really just show up and do the work every single day.
Show up, do the work. I love your reporting function too. You were accountable to the outcome of the work, right? So you were texting your coach every day and saying, "Hey, here's what I did." Your coach wasn't seeking you for that, right? You were just doing
Nope.
that because you're an accountable person that was looking for you wanted to be able to track your results. You wanted to make sure that the things that you did were leading you in a direction, right?
Yeah.
So
I I got tired of coming home and having my wife ask me, "Did you sell a house today?"
that was
I
my
got
least favorite question. And my wife would ask me every freaking day. And I would always be like, "Hun, it doesn't work like that." Like, she'd be like, "Did you sell something today?" I'm like, "It doesn't work like that. I'm not slinging cell phones at a kiosk in the mall, okay? Like all the time." And like I had to like sit her and my father-in-law down once and be like, "You can't ask me that question. It stresses me out, okay?" Because they like my in-laws live local and they'd be in the house, and every time I'd come home from work, they'd be like, "Did you sell something today?" I'm like, "God dang it, dude. That's not how this shit works." Like then I started answering by saying, "Yes, I sell something every day.
Yeah,
Every day I sell
good
something.
answer.
It's my job every day." And they'd be like, "You did? What'd you sell?" And I'm like, "None of your business. Leave me alone." Like, like so
I sold
I
the dream,
love that.
baby. I sold the dream.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
sold the dream. Yeah, awesome.
I
Awesome.
got tired of it, and not because she was doing anything wrong, because that's what she
No, of
knew. And so
course.
I had the same conversation, and then it triggered in my mind. I was like, okay, well, how can I show up every day in confidence and show her something or tell her something that gives her confidence too? Because I want her to have that. I know she knows I'm doing the work. However, I'm still coming out of this dark period, so I want to make sure she knows she can trust me and also understand this a little bit better. So that's where the numbers tracking really came in too. Is I need something that I have control over, that I know will dictate success and results in the future, that I can share and I can also analyze. I'm a business minded person. I own 12
Right.
businesses. I love numbers. I need to know the numbers. And so I started tracking heavily. And so I had a whiteboard right here. And every day after and I just did it on a scratch piece of paper, by the way, everybody. I don't have a fancy system for it. If I made a contact, I put a hash mark on a scratch piece of paper. If I set an appointment, I put another hash mark. So I just calculated those every single day and I added them. And over the course of time, these numbers started to tell a story. One of the stories that my coach and I found in there was that I obviously am willing to do the work because I'm making a ton of calls and a ton of contacts, on average 114 dials per day. I'm doing a lot of work, and yet I'm having a hard time getting them to say yes once I get to the appointment. So I was good at making the contacts. I was good at getting them to say yes because I'm persistent and I think I'm pretty decent at my scripts at this point. And yet I would have a lot of no shows or a lot of no signs when I got to the appointment. So back to my wife though, I was able to at least come home and say, listen, these are the lead indicators that I am performing, and I'm doing I'm doing more than 99.9% of the people in this industry. This will get us results. And as those numbers evolved and I started closing more and more deals, see the story of you're not good at closing at the table or you're getting no shows. That's because my value on the call was probably pretty low and I was pressuring people into saying yes to an appointment and they would just say yes to get off the phone. So I had to go back and work on, how do I ask better questions? How do I make sure I get to the root cause or the root problem that they're trying to solve, and then present an option for that and get them into appointments so there's value in it. Then I had to work on my actual listing appointments and my buyer consultations of same thing, not just asking surface level questions and going much deeper. I'm sure
Well,
you
you
won't do
had to
this with
turn it. You
Keller.
had to turn I went through this exact same process early in my career where I understood sales to be transactional, meaning I convince them to say yes to the first thing so that I can convince them to say yes to the next thing. But this business is not transactional; it's relationship. And so there's no real convincing, there's agreement. So the call isn't actually about convincing them to say yes. The call is about them agreeing that saying yes is what's in their best interest. But that's a different
Absolutely.
set of questions in a different way of getting them to the same outcome. You can pressure them to say yes, or you can get them to agree that yes is the right answer. It's totally different. And then the reception when you show up is totally different, because then when you show up, they're like, I agreed that this would be a really good use of my time. Now you have to prove it with the listing appointment. And the way that you present in the listing appointment has to actually be the confidence giver to them that, wow, I did make a good choice when I agreed to meet with this person. And now I'm going to make a good choice to continue to work with them. I had the exact same problem early because I was convincing and good on the phone and able to get people to say yes. They didn't even remember what they said yes to by the time I would show up. And
Yep.
so it was like rebooting the entire meeting. Guys, this is something to dig into if you're somebody who's setting a lot of appointments and not getting a lot of signed contracts. There's usually some series of questions that you're missing. There's some version of how you're saying and asking for the appointment that's not being delivered properly. Very, very smart insight, Michael. Thank you for sharing that.
When I was taught, the deeper, I don't want to have surface level conversations with people. It's one of my least favorite things. Chit chat, not my favorite thing. I'll do it because it's social norm. However, the second I can get deeper with somebody to get to really what a struggle they're having or a goal that they've got or whatever it is, the better I feel, the more I get out of that conversation too. And so that really started to shape my consultations with buyers and sellers. In fact, I created an acronym for it that I'll share it, and you're more than welcome to use this however you'd like. Deep, D-E-E-P. D is for discovery. When I'm sitting down with someone, I am full on in discovery mode. I am asking questions. I want to know about them. I want to know about their motivation. I want to know about their life because I want to paint a picture. And I got this. I mean, I've always been in sales in some way or another. And so in the gym, I was able to go in and help take over sometimes and turn them around or help a department turn around. And I remember this woman, Barbara. She was about 63 years old at the time. She walks into the gym and she's thinking about getting in shape. So they put me in front of her. And I ask her these questions that I still ask today of clients, of leaders I'm hiring or agents I'm consulting with, whatever it is. I started asking questions about her, why she wanted to get back into fitness or why she wanted, and she gave me a surface level answer like so many people will do the first question you ask. And so I started going through my 3 levels of questions, and here they're very simple. What's important about that to you? It's extremely simple question, very rooted in coaching. What's important about that to you? And she would give me a little bit deeper question or answer. And her answer there was, well, I want to be able to play with my grandkids when they're at my house and running around. I said, oh, that's fantastic. What would it do for you if you were able to play with the kids more? And she goes, well, I'd be able to connect with them more. I think we'd have a closer relationship. And I go, okay. So the next question is, well, what might be standing in your way? And she started to get a little bit more open there. Well, I don't feel like I can get up for more than 2 or 3 minutes and run around with them. So I have to go back and sit down. So I'm watching from afar. And I go, okay. And I asked my third and final question, third of the series, is what would it mean to you if you were able to go and see yourself running around with your grandkids, having a great time, living a longer and healthier life? What would that mean to you? And that's when she just opened up, the floodgates came out, she was crying, and we're having this I'm having this great connection with a human who really wants to change their life so they can live a better one and give that to other people as well. And so there's 2 parts of my brain firing at this moment, and very transparently. The salesperson side of me is saying, I got her. She's joining and she's buying personal training. That's fine. That is fine. I'm in the business of doing this. The cool part about it is I was able to combine it with, I get to help a human be better. Like that's the most important part. This is just the business result of it. And I apply that to business today. And so when she said that to me and I was, oh man, I just helped her paint a picture for herself. And what I did was I put her into a negative future. This is a coaching model as well. I was able to take her from where she was okay. She knew in her heart she wasn't. However, I'm okay. I could probably continue going like this to a place in her mind where she was in a negative future. And then I was able to come right in and say, here's the solution. Let's go. And that applies to real estate too. And so the whole deep thing is discovery. I want to know so much about you. In fact, I'll even preface the conversation sometimes with, hey, Jeremy, I'm looking at Jeremy. Jeremy, I'm likely to ask you some questions that other people haven't asked you, and some of them might touch on a little bit of a hot button. Are you okay with that? And they'll say, well, I'm not sure. What does that mean? I go, Jeremy, all it means is that I'm trying to get to know you and your motivations as deeply as possible because my job is to serve you. And if I don't have that information, I can't serve you at the highest possible level. So I'm probably gonna make you a little uncomfortable. And at any point, you can tell me to shut the F up. And they would laugh like that sometimes. And so the idea was to break down that guard a little bit and then go as deep as I possibly can. I don't care how many bedrooms or baths you want. I need to know it because I need to program a portal for it. I need to know why you want it, what's the motivator behind it, what it's going to do for you in your life. And so I can then help you achieve that.
Yep.
3 bedrooms, 2 baths, I can find those all day. So that's the D.
I love that. So D is discovery. What are the other ones?
E is education. And a real word of caution here. You don't need to vomit all of your expertise and knowledge onto your clients.
Yeah.
They don't care. They care that you know. So what I'm talking about when I say education is through that motivation conversation with Jeremy, I'm finding out what he needs to be educated on. And part of that education, it could be the process, it could be the timelines, it could just be the expectation, it could be anything. It's whatever Jeremy needs in that moment, that's what I'm going to educate him on. And I'll ask questions like, Jeremy, how comfortable do you feel in the process of selling your home? Well, I know this, that, great. What would you like to know more to feel comfortable in the process so that way you don't get nervous or the anxiety is less throughout the entire thing? I'm letting him dictate to me what I'm going to share back to him. This comes from a lesson I learned a long time ago too. I stood up in front of a group of 60 people and it was early in my career and I was teaching a class and at the very end I asked for questions and a woman raised her hand and asked me a question. I don't even remember what the question was. And I launched into a 7-minute tirade on what I thought the answer to her question was. And I'm passionate about it. My arms are flailing. I'm talking about it. And at the end of the 7 minutes, I look at her and I say, hey, did I answer your question? She goes, not even a little bit. I go, okay. because I didn't do a good job of actually clarifying or asking questions or getting the feedback I needed to actually give a solution or give an answer or give a response. And so that stayed with me forever too. So education is about what they need, and that part can be pretty short. It can be also pretty long depending on the type of person you're dealing with.
Well,
ID,
you can also resolve education just simply by saying, like people will say, like, tell me about your marketing strategy, right? And
yeah,
like, so there's a million different ways to answer that. One is by giving them a 437 point analysis of every single, website and resource. One is to say we follow a program that gets your house exposed to the widest possible audience in the shortest amount of time with the best messaging. And like they actually both answer the question.
yeah,
And then some people will need to unpack that, but most people will be like, well, that sounds like a good answer. Like you've
yeah.
educated. So what's the other E? What's the next
The
E?
next E is expectations. I think
Okay.
there's
Love it.
no good relationship out there without great communication and great expectations. And so expectations are, first of all, give first. I asked Jeremy, what are your expectations of me as your real estate? By the way, I haven't signed yet. I'm just making the assumptive close here. Jeremy, what are your expectations of me as your agent as we move forward? And so again, let him tell me, perfect. So, because I want to look for the ones that I can absolutely knock out of the park and the ones that I might need to clarify a little bit and the ones that I'm like, ooh, I don't know, this might be on
Yeah.
shaky ground a
Yeah.
little
Well,
bit.
my expectation is that you're going to walk my dog, meet every single client here. Come over. I need to get my living room painted, and I presume that you have coveralls to paint my living room. Right.
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that you're getting into business with somebody where you've got an equal exchange of value. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love
And
that.
if the expectations of theirs are way out of bounds and I can't bring them back into the bounds that I'm willing to live within or work within, no worries. No worries at all. I'm going to
Totally.
refer Jeremy to someone else and get a referral check.
I love
Uh,
that. I
yeah.
love that. So what is P?
P is plan. So once we've
Oh,
gone through expectations of each other, of myself, we lay out the plan. And that is based on what their motivating factors are. That is the education they needed. That is the expectations. Then it's a very specific plan, and that includes my communication strategy. Another tip: here's something that helped save me a ton of time in my career. I at one point was selling 10 houses a month and having 5 to 10 listings as well. I was busy, even though I had an admin. I was very busy, and so part of my communication plan was if I'm talking to Jeremy, here's what you can expect of me on a weekly basis. There's going to be a lot more than this. However, these are the two things you can count on every single week. 6:30 a.m. on Mondays, you're going to get an email from me detailing the results and the feedback that we've gotten over the last 7 days, and we're going to lay out our plan for the coming week as well. That way, you never have to wonder what we're doing or what we've done or what we're going to be doing in the future. Then, Jeremy, you and I are going to have a call at least every Thursday, sometimes dictated by the market that we're going to have more often conversations. However, every Thursday, because I want to walk you through what's happened the first 4 days of the week and what our plan is for the weekend for your house as well.
love it.
The reason, by the way, there was a very selfish reason for that. When I was so busy, I was getting texts, calls, emails all the time, every day, throughout the night, on the weekend, and those types of things. And many of them started, and I hate this. This is, to me, is the kiss of death in service. Is when someone texts me and says, "Any news?" or "What's next?"
Totally.
Anytime I got one of those two things, I'm like, ah, man, I dropped the ball in communication with this, and it started
100%.
happening more and more.
Yep. So we
And
follow a
so
system. We follow a system called the six strategic conversations, and it's
I love it.
basically outlining the six most important conversations that you can have through the course of servicing a client, so that they never text you and say what's next or what happened,
Yep.
because you are already preemptively telling them what's next and what happened, and they know when those benchmarks are going to happen throughout the course of the transaction. So, but dude, we are 9:32. So I've
Oh,
already
are we?
sucked an hour out of your, it's, 6:32 for you. I've already sucked an hour out of your morning. There is so much to unpack here. Do you have 5 more minutes?
Absolutely.
All right, let me shift gears because I wanna honor your time. I also know we've got a bunch of real busy people here chomping at the bit to ask some questions, make some comments. So guys, what do we have for Michael? I feel like we scratched the surface here today. Dan Raposo, get us started, buddy. What do we got?
Dude, this was the best call we've had in a really long time. Michael, you're awesome. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Dan.
And we've had some Olympians on this call in the past few months too. So just throwing that out there.
It
Throwing
is
that
true.
out there.
You should feel real good.
Yeah.
Was it Michael Phelps? Am I better than Michael Phelps?
No, no, but Pat opening ceremonies for Patrick is like happening like today. So there you
Yeah,
go.
Right.
it's
Right
awesome.
Um,
on.
no, so really thank you for all your time today. I loved the deep the conversation framework was great. Um One of the questions that I had, and this is probably Matt's probably not going to be surprised by this question because it's a conversation him and I have had a lot over the past year, probably like every conversation we've had. Um, you said something earlier. You said you put your ego aside and you decided, you know what, I'm going to stop doing what I think I need to do or what I want to do, and I'm going to start doing what they tell me to do. That's literally a conversation Matt and I have had probably half a dozen times over the past year. What were you doing that you stopped doing? And what did you start doing? Like, what was the shift? Like, as I understand it at a, higher level, but where was the shift really for you?
What I thought I should do is whatever I felt like in the moment. What I thought I should do was go meet people for coffee and lunches. And what I thought I should do is touch my database in a very infrequent and inconsistent way. And knowing that it was not probably the best idea, that's what I thought. The shift simply was, I know I got to talk to people. I know I got to deliver value. And so just tell me where I should put my focus, and I'll go at least do that. And it was an evolution. It took time as well. It was like, I'll give you a quick example. My definition of a contact when I first really started getting back into this was they have a heartbeat and they say hello. That's all I need. That's a contact. And over the course of time, it evolved. And so I hope this will answer your question. It evolved into, well, if I'm going to be doing this work, why not make the most of it? And so that's obviously skill set development. It's also make sure I'm putting that energy to the right people. And so I started limiting what I would consider a contact. I would only consider it a contact if it was a two-way conversation with someone about real estate where they had a desire to do something in the next 6 months and I asked for the business at least once. So like the shift came over time. It was shift number one was I just gotta start doing that. I just gotta start doing the work, and I'm gonna report these numbers for accountability. And then it shifted more and more and more to, well, okay, now I'm getting into this habit of doing the work. How do I focus that energy onto the right people? And that's where I'd go back and say, who should I be calling? What should I be saying? How many of these people should I be talking to? And just to go back real quickly to the numbers piece, that story that it told to me was I tracked my numbers really well. I needed to make 300 dials every single day in order to sell a house every 8 days. I got this data over the course of months. And so by finding those areas to fix, all of a sudden, 6 months later, I need to make 114 dials to sell a house every 6 days. And back to the conversation earlier really quickly was that's what I wanted to be able to bring home to my wife. Say, no, I'd walk in the door and I'd say, don't even ask. I didn't sell a house today. However, I did the work, which means I'm going to sell at least one every 6 days on average. So don't ask me again. So I don't know if that answers your question directly. The shift was simply
No,
do
I
work.
want to. I'm like, we are so cut from the same cloth. Like it's like the right question, Dan, but it's the question that holds everybody up. It's like, well, tell me more specifically so that I can get started on the exact thing. No, just get started. He actually already answered the question. He said, I did the 5 things that Diana Kokoska told me to do. That was my job, and I just did that. But what we do is we say, yeah, but there must be more. No, there's not more. It's actually just that. You get better at figuring out what the next step is after you've taken the first step. It's like the first step is, are you making the dials, making the contacts, having the conversations each and every day so that you have lead follow? Like right now, maybe you don't have enough lead follow up. Well, guess what that means? You got to do way more lead generation because your lead follow up isn't going to be there. Or maybe you're not script practicing because you don't feel like you're going to do any lead generation. Like you go to the basics and then execute. And then the next step and the who, you outline that perfectly, Michael. Like the next thing becomes clearer after you do the first thing. Love it.
And
Love it.
just jumping into it shows you a lot of things where your skill sets are lacking, maybe where you're targeting your energy. And so going back to mentorship, going back to coaching and just refining it over time. This was not an overnight thing. Even though the overnight, flip into I'm not drinking anymore. Yeah, that was an overnight thing. This was months and months and months of process before I really felt confident, before I started seeing the momentum behind it. And it was just jump into it, refine it, jump into it, refine it, jump into it, refine it over and over again.
Love it. Shelly, thank you.
Hi, Shelly.
Thanks,
Shelly, thank
buddy.
you. Take us home, Shelly. Take us
I
home.
really appreciate you coming on. It was great to hear parts of your story I've never heard. And, it's funny, before I met you, I thought a leader needed to be the loudest person in the room and have the biggest ego. And you just totally knocked that on its side for me. I did not realize when I first met you how much you've accomplished. But you really have a gift for lifting people up. And, so many good nuggets from today. I mean, even just the habit stacking. I used to think it's a pass fail. You know, if I don't get up and do my exercise, that's it, I failed. But can I work my way up to those things, you know, step by step? So just really appreciate everything. We're gonna have to circle back to that Abercrombie thing because I did not know that. I will give
There's
you
a
shit for that.
there's a photo reel coming. We all know
Oh
it.
boy.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate you.
Michael, how can we support you? You have made a huge impact this morning on a group of people in the Northeast who are grateful to wake up and have it not be snowing. And we want to return the favor. Is there an effort or an initiative that you've got going on? Is there a social media platform that you want us to follow you on? How can we help you? Where can we show up and support you today?
You inviting me here and having me and allowing me to speak with you is all I could request, all I could ask. I put my phone number in the chat though. If anybody ever wants to reach out directly, have a question or whatever, obviously I'll defer to leadership at the same time. I'm happy to support and serve anybody, whether it's personal, professional, whatever I can do for you as well.
Well, we want to show up somewhere. So tell us how we can do it. What's your social media handle? How do we find you on Instagram, YouTube? Can we give you a Google review or something like that? There's a tangible outcome from your effort and energy this morning.
Michael Putnam 333. I have an obsession with the number 3. Michael Putnam 333 is my Instagram. So I'd love to connect with you there as well. And then I do some coaching on the side as well. So if you ever know anybody outside your organization that is looking for someone with this kind of conversation, then I'd be honored to be introduced.
I love it. I love it. Michael, thank you so much. You've made a huge difference today. We appreciate you. This has been tremendous. So thank you. Thank you. Please don't hesitate to reach out if any of us can ever do anything for you. Guys, that's your Friday. It's a wrap. It doesn't really get much simpler. It could not be clearer. I love your story, Michael. I love it. He said so many things that you've all heard before, but you can't be a prophet in your own land. So we brought Michael in today to say the same thing that you guys have heard. It really does come down to do one of 3 things. Go do it today. Sign something, sell something, or set an appointment. Because if you did that every day, you really don't have any other problems, do you? Sign something, sell something, or set an appointment. Make it a great day, everybody. See you soon.